Have you ever wondered why you had this endless, boundless energy in your 20s, but then somewhere in your 30s, you just started feeling inexplicably tired all the time?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is entirely normalized in our society today.
Right, like you wake up, you've had a full night of sleep, but you still feel like you're operating at, maybe 70%?
Yeah, exactly.
And then looking further down the road, why do we all just collectively accept that our bodies are going to break down, get sick, and ultimately fail in our 60s and 70s?
Well, we look around, we see everyone else experiencing the exact same physical trajectory, and we just assume it's the inevitable cost of entry for being alive. You get older, things hurt more, you slow down.
Exactly. We've been taught our entire lives that this decline is purely biological destiny.
Hmm.
Like it's your genetics finally catching up with you, or it's the compounding stress of modern life,
Or
or,
it's just Father Time collecting his dues.
yeah,
End of story.
right. But the sources we are looking at for this deep dive
Yeah.
claim that this accepted wisdom is, well, completely and fundamentally backwards.
It really is. The material we are analyzing today is a fascinating, uh, radical departure from everything we are taught in basic biology.
It totally flips everything on its head.
Yeah, so we are looking at translated excerpts from a 2025 philosophical and engineering text belonging to something called the Human Paradise Doctrine.
Okay, wow. That is quite the title.
Right. And specifically, we are examining writings by authors known as the Master Fuchi Wu and a co-author referred to as Little Brother. The texts themselves are titled Master's Insight number 366 and Master's Insight number XXX.
Just to set the table for you listening, our mission today is to explore their argument that human aging, as we currently experience it, is not a biological destiny at all.
Which is a massive claim to make.
It's huge. According to these authors, aging is a measurable engineering error of modern civilization caused by microscopic toxins.
Right, and it is worth stating up front that we are just impartially unpacking the claims made in these texts. We aren't endorsing them or offering medical advice, of course.
Of course. But we're going to unpack how they completely redefine what it means to age. We'll look at the incredibly specific particle they blame for this decline, and then we'll explore their proposed technological fix.
Because structurally, the premise is just captivating. They are taking the entire burden of aging, the gray hair, the failing joints, the chronic fatigue off of the human body, and placing it squarely on the built environment around us.
Okay, let's unpack this closed-loop concept, because this is where the paradigm shift really begins for me. The authors claim there are three inevitables for modern humans: premature decay, premature aging, and premature death.
Yeah.
And the root cause for all three is what they call our closed-loop civilization.
Think about the actual physical architecture of a modern day. You wake up in a house or an apartment that is designed to be as airtight as possible, right? But to save on heating and cooling costs.
Yeah, nobody wants a drafty house.
Exactly.
Yep.
So you leave that sealed box, you get into a car with the windows rolled up, breathing air that is circulating over the synthetic plastics and foams of your dashboard and upholstery.
Which is a lot of plastic.
Right. Then you drive to a fully sealed office building where the windows literally cannot open and you're just breathing through commercial air conditioning return systems.
You're basically spending your entire life moving from one sealed, slightly toxic plastic container to another.
That is exactly what it is.
It reminds me of the classic new car smell. Like I remember buying a car a few years ago and just loving that smell.
Oh, everybody loves the new car smell.
Right. But looking back, that smell isn't some natural fragrance. It's the intense chemical off-gassing of volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, just baking in the sun.
Yeah, it's essentially just chemical fumes.
Yeah, because the car is a closed loop. You are just sitting in a highly concentrated dome of fumes, huffing it during your morning commute.
And the scary thing is, that is happening in your home, too. New carpets, the paint on your walls, the cleaning products you use, they're all emitting particles into an airtight space. Because there is no break from this exposure, the text argues that we need to redefine what getting older actually means. I mean, the medical community measures aging in time. You have been alive for 40 years, therefore your heart is weakening.
But the doctrine says time is just an illusion. Time is merely the measurement of exposure.
Exactly.
The actual cause of the physical decline is what they call the toxic accumulation curve.
And if we look at the mechanics of that curve, it completely flips the script on biology. We aren't slowly dying of old age.
Wait, really? Then what are we doing?
Well, they argue our organs are simply acting like biological filters, and over the decades, they are reaching their maximum toxic saturation point and shutting down under the physical stress.
Oh, wow. It makes me think of a kitchen sponge.
Yeah.
Like if you take a brand new sponge and keep wiping up dirty, greasy water with it, eventually that sponge is completely saturated.
Right. It gets heavy, it gets stiff, and it stinks absorbing.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter how chronologically old the sponge is. It could be 2 days old or 2 years old. It only matters how much dirt it has been forced to absorb.
That's a great way to look at it. The authors would argue that the speed of your aging is determined entirely by how fast your personal sponge fills up.
So if you spend more time in highly concentrated, sealed environments, your toxic accumulation curve accelerates.
Yes, precisely.
Okay, I follow the logic of the closed loop, but this raises a massive question for me. If we are accumulating all this toxicity, what exactly is the dirt in the sponge?
Good question.
Because the human body isn't helpless, right? We have a liver, we have kidneys, we have an incredibly complex immune system designed to hunt down and destroy foreign invaders. Are these authors really suggesting our biology is completely blind to whatever is floating around in our offices?
What's fascinating here is that the text argues our biology isn't blind, but rather mechanically outmatched by a very specific modern villain, PM 0.1.
PM 0.1. What exactly is that?
That stands for particulate matter that is 100 nanometers in diameter. They also point to even smaller ultrafine particles, alongside aerosols and the VOCs you mentioned earlier.
We hear about particulate matter in pollution reports all the time, but PM 0.1 is on an entirely different scale, isn't it?
Oh, it is difficult to visualize just how small 100 nanometers is. A single strand of human hair is about 80 to 100,000 nanometers thick.
Wait, so PM 0.1 is thousands of times thinner than a single hair?
Yes. It is smaller than many viruses. And the authors outline 3 devastating traits of this specific microscopic threat that explain why your liver and kidneys are completely powerless against it.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first trait is that it is unmetabolizable.
Meaning the body literally cannot break it down or dissolve it.
Exactly. You have to think about what the liver is designed to do. It metabolizes biological or chemical compounds. It breaks down alcohol. It processes medications. It filters out dead cells. But PM 0.1 is often physical matter like microscopic fragments of heavy metals, soot, or synthetic polymers. You cannot metabolize a microscopic rock.
I mean, that makes sense. The liver enzymes would just bounce right off of it.
Exactly. The immune system's white blood cells can't dissolve it either. The text uses a terrifying phrase for this. They call it sand in the human hourglass.
Sand in the human hourglass.
Wow.
Because every single breath you take inside one of these sealed buildings, a few more microscopic grains of sand fall into your system, and they never, ever come out.
It is a very heavy image.
It is. But if the body can't dissolve it, why doesn't it just physically block it? We have mucus linings, we have skin, we have cell walls designed to keep invaders out.
Well, that brings us to the second trait. PM 0.1 is ultra-penetrating. Because of that nanometer scale we just talked about, it is actually physically smaller than the pores of your cellular membranes.
So it doesn't even have to break the door down. It just slips right through the keyhole.
Yeah, the frontline defenses, your nasal hairs, the mucus in your lungs, those are great at catching larger dust particles or pollen.
But not this.
Right. PM 0.1 slips right past them, enters the alveoli of the lungs, and passes directly into the bloodstream. From there, no organ can defend against it.
So it's literally going everywhere.
Everywhere. It enters the heart, the brain, the nervous system, the vascular lining. It infiltrates every biological sanctuary in the human body.
It really is a microscopic Trojan horse.
Yeah.
But it's not just an inert piece of sand taking up space, is it? The text mentions a third trait, which is how it interacts with the VOCs we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and the third trait might be the most destructive.
Yeah.
PM 0.1 is highly charged, acting as a toxic carrier.
A toxic carrier. How does that work?
Because of its massive surface area relative to its tiny volume and its static electrical charge, it acts like a magnet for other chemicals.
Let me see if I have this right. It's like a microscopic piece of Velcro rolling down a hallway.
Yeah.
As it travels through the air in your house, it's picking up chemical lint-like molecules of cleaning spray, fumes from your non-stick pans, heavy metals in the air, and it pulls all of them onto its surface until it becomes this dense, highly toxic snowball.
That is a perfect analogy. The PM 0.1 is the vehicle, and the chemical lint is the payload. It ferries those volatile organic compounds deep into your organs, slipping through the cell walls, and then it parks there forever.
Forever. That is, wow.
Yeah. The authors emphasize that this isn't a traditional biological disease like a bacterial infection. It is a physics and chemistry problem. You have physical matter stacking up in biological spaces until the system literally runs out of room.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If these particles never leave and they are constantly stacking up day after day, year after year, how does this hourglass actually play out over a human lifespan?
Well, they actually map that out.
Right. The authors map out a very specific saturation curve, and the timeline they lay out mirrors our accepted biological milestones almost perfectly.
They map the toxic accumulation curve directly against what society assumes is the natural aging process. Let's look at the first phase they identify from birth to 20 years old.
Okay, the golden years.
Exactly. In this phase, the text says the body reaches about 0 to 10% toxic saturation.
This is when you have that endless energy. You can eat anything, you can run all day.
Your organs are brand new and highly resilient. They are strong enough to handle the initial deposits of PM 0.1 without showing any signs of strain.
So it's happening. We just don't feel it yet.
Right. The toxins are just starting to form what the authors call a toxic baseline, quietly depositing and hiding in the fat tissues, the liver, and the blood vessels. You don't feel it because the body is growing faster than the toxins can accumulate.
Then we hit the second phase, 20 to 40 years old. The text says this is when you reach 10 to 30% saturation.
And this is when true aging actually starts.
Which makes complete sense when you consider the environmental shift that happens in your 20s.
The closed-loop exposure accelerates massively. You graduate, you enter the workforce. Now you are spending 8 to 10 hours a day inside fully sealed commercial office buildings.
Not to mention the commute.
Right. You are spending hundreds of hours a year commuting in a car.
Right.
The environmental attack becomes a full-time job.
And the symptoms, the text list for this 30% saturation point are incredibly telling.
Yeah.
You start experiencing unexplainable fatigue. Your sleep quality drops.
Yeah.
You notice it takes much longer to recover after a heavy workout.
Yeah.
Maybe you start getting heart palpitations when you're under stress. And how does society treat those symptoms?
You go to the doctor, they run some basic blood tests, tell you everything looks normal, and say, well, you're just getting older. Welcome to your 30s.
Exactly. But the doctrine argues those symptoms aren't a mysterious illness, and they certainly aren't a natural consequence of time.
No, they are the direct physical signs that your organs are becoming congested. The sponge is getting heavy.
Yeah.
The microscopic sand is taking up so much space in your cellular tissue that your heart and lungs have to work slightly harder just to maintain baseline function.
For anyone listening right now who is experiencing that mid-30s slump, this text is essentially validating that feeling. It's saying, you shouldn't be this tired. Your biology isn't failing you. You are just saturated.
Exactly. Which brings us to the more severe phase 40 to 60 years old.
This is when things start breaking down.
Yeah. By this point, the authors estimate you have reached 50 to 70% toxic saturation. This is when function visibly, measurably declines. The sheer physical weight of decades of microscopic pollutants is altering the mechanics of the organs.
This is when the blood tests stop looking normal. High blood pressure, rising blood sugar, dipping kidney function, elevated liver enzymes.
And the medical establishment categorizes these as chronic diseases of aging, and we prescribe a cocktail of medications to manage the symptoms.
But the text says it's something else.
Right. The text proposes that the underlying cause is simply the organs hitting their toxic limit. Your blood vessels are stiffening not because of a timer going off, but because the vascular lining is physically embedded with heavy metals and chemical-laden PM 0.1 particles.
Which leads to the final, most devastating phase, 60 years and older. The text says this represents 80 to 100% saturation.
This hourglass is full.
Yeah.
This is when you see systemic failure. Heart failure, dementia, cancer, complete immune system collapse.
And the authors are explicit here. This is not getting old. It is the absolute exhaustion of the organ's toxic load capacity.
Exactly. The organ has collapsed because the physical limit of accumulation has been breached.
So what does this all mean for us? Because if we look at human health through the lens of this doctrine, it requires a total paradigm shift.
You really did.
By relabeling the symptoms of aging as symptoms of environmental saturation, they are completely shifting the blame. It's not human biology that is inherently flawed, it is human architecture.
That is the core of it. We built the closed loop for convenience and energy efficiency, and the closed loop is suffocating us on a microscopic level.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the core philosophical insight of the human paradise doctrine is that the clock of aging isn't ticking on the wall. It is ticking inside our organs, and PM 0.1 is the only hand on that clock.
Every minute you sit in a sealed conference room, every breath you take in stop-and-go traffic, physically pushes the hand of that clog forward.
Exactly.
I have to admit, that is an incredibly bleak diagnosis. If our built environment is the fundamental problem and spending time indoors is, completely unavoidable in modern society, is there any hope offered in these texts, or are we just doomed to slowly fill up with toxic sand until we break?
Well, the authors actually provide a very clear solution. And to understand their technological fix, you first have to understand their biological premise. They argue that the human body can repair itself. The cellular machinery for rejuvenation exists, but it can only work if the speed of biological repair outpaces the speed of environmental destruction.
Which, as we've established, is impossible in a closed-loop civilization. Because you are inhaling these ultrafine toxins 24 hours a day, the body is constantly playing defense.
Exactly. It never gets a moment of peace to actually clean house or rebuild damaged tissue.
So what's their fix?
To fix an engineering flaw, you need an engineering solution. The text introduces a technology they call the Air 8-free maze purifier, or the Air 8.0.
Now, when I first read about this, I was skeptical. Because when someone says air purifier, I immediately picture a $200 HEPA filter you buy at a big box store and plug into the corner of your bedroom.
Sure, most people do.
But the doctrine is talking about something on an entirely different level of physics, aren't they?
Very different. Standard HEPA filters are designed to catch larger particles, dust, pollen, pet dander. But remember the ultra-penetrating nature of PM 0.1.
Right, they slip right through.
Exactly. Those particles are so small they often slip right through standard physical mesh. Or the filters simply can't cycle the air fast enough to outpace the continuous off-gassing of the room you were sitting in. The Air 8.0 is fundamentally different.
So how does it actually work mechanically?
The text describes it as a system that completely eliminates PM 0.1, ultrafine particles, aerosols, and VOCs, driving them down to absolute zero.
Wow. Absolute zero.
Yes. It achieves this through a complex maze-like internal structure combined with 24-hour continuous high-velocity cycling.
So it isn't just filtering the air occasionally.
No, it is aggressively scrubbing the entire volume of the room at a rate that outpaces the emission of new toxins.
It is essentially creating a true safe zone. By driving the microscopic threat to absolute zero, you are stopping new toxins from entering the skin and the lungs.
You are breaking the closed loop.
And by doing that, you essentially hit the pause button on the human aging timeline.
That is the foundation of their longevity and slow aging concept. If you can engineer an indoor environment where the daily microscopic attack stops entirely, the organs finally have the breathing room they need.
The daily accumulation halts.
Exactly. The hand on the toxic clock stops moving forward, and the body's natural repair mechanisms can finally catch up.
I love how profoundly practical that is. They aren't trying to invent a magic anti-aging pill. They aren't trying to hack your DNA with gene therapy.
Oh.
They're simply trying to hack the room the human body is standing in. It completely changes how you view longevity.
It forces us to ask massive questions about where we direct our scientific resources. For decades, the medical establishment has poured billions of dollars into researching the biological fountain of youth, looking for chemical compounds to delay aging.
Right?
But if the human paradise doctrine is correct, we have been looking in the wrong discipline entirely. We don't need better pharmaceuticals, we need better physics.
Let's pull all of this together, because we have covered a massive amount of conceptual ground today. We've explored this radical premise where getting old, feeling chronically exhausted, and eventually developing chronic diseases isn't the fault of your genetics.
Or the fault of time.
Right. It is the direct mechanical result of an invisible toxic payload, PM 0.1, and VOCs delivered relentlessly by the very buildings, homes, and cities we constructed to protect ourselves from the elements.
It is a dark irony. Our civilization conquered the outdoor elements, only to create a slow-acting microscopic poison indoors.
And for you listening, whether you fully adopt the science of this doctrine or remain a bit skeptical, you have to admit it fundamentally changes how you perceive your physical surroundings.
It really does.
The next time you sit in your car on a hot day and smell those plastics baking, or you sit under the air conditioning vent in a windowless office and feel that wave of 2 o'clock exhaustion wash over you, you are going to think about the toxic accumulation curve. It validates that deeply frustrating feeling of, I shouldn't be this tired at my age, shifting the blame from a personal failing of your body to the invisible reality of the built environment around you.
It absolutely recontextualizes the modern human experience. And it leaves us with a final, rather provocative thought to ponder.
Ooh, okay. What is it?
Well, if our biology is actually capable of endless self-repair when it is totally isolated from these modern toxins, and if the cure for aging is a massive, highly advanced environmental engineering system like the Air 80, what does that mean for the future of society?
Oh, wow. That is a terrifying thread to pull.
Think about it. If perfectly clean, zero-toxin air is the key to longevity, then clean air ceases to be a human right and becomes the ultimate luxury commodity.
Right.
We could be looking at a future defined by biological inequality, where the wealthy can afford to live in perfectly engineered 0 PM zero point 0.1 environments and effectively stop aging, while the rest of the world continues to accumulate toxins and age at the normal, accelerated rate.
Will the ultimate divide between the rich and the poor simply be the air they are allowed to breathe?
Exactly.
Wow. The idea of air inequality dictating human lifespans, that is something that is going to stay with me for a long time. So the next time you feel like you've lost that boundless energy you used to have, just remember, you might not be getting older.
You might just be stuck inside a slightly toxic plastic container.
Exactly. Keep questioning the invisible world around you. Pay attention to the air you're breathing, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.
Air 8 Free Maze Purifier. The world's first single-pass purifier. Combining ionization, electrostatics, and airflow maze. The machine replaces humans. To absorb and destroy every toxin, air enters the ion zone. Viruses and dust gain negative charge. They pass electrostatic filters. Then enter the toxbox maze. Aerosols dry on electrode walls, breaking down into CO2 and water. Inside the maze, air twists and strikes over 60 times. Each turn ends a toxin's life. Billions of particles in 0.1 second are fully purified. It releases Earth's purest air. The superheaven air quality. 8 free, dust-free, germ-free, toxin-free. Smoke-free, odor-free, heavy metal-free. Microplastic-free, aerosol-free. Not just an air machine. The only key to lifespan freedom. U.S. Patent No. 8268058B2.